All right, so you guys sent us this Fox News article, and wow, it's about Trump's upcoming sentencing, and it's it's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the headline is, New York judge sets Trump sentencing days before inauguration.
I mean...
Yeah, we'll talk about cutting it close, right?
Well, it's certainly not the usual pre-inauguration to-do list.
Oh, not at all.
Definitely throws a wrench in things.
Yeah, for sure. So just so everyone's on the same page here, Trump was found guilty in this New York case, remember?
Right.
The one about hush money payments?
Uh-huh.
And now they've set the sentencing for January 10th.
Okay.
Which is wild because his inauguration is just 10 days later.
10 days later on January 20th, yeah.
Yes,
So it really brings up this fascinating legal question.
Yeah.
Like, does presidential immunity, does it protect a president-elect from stuff they did before taking office?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to try and figure out today.
That's the big question, isn't it? And this article lays out some really important details. We gotta unpack them.
Yeah.
So first of all, the judge in the case, Judge Merchant,
Right.
he rejected Trump's request to just toss out the verdict based on presidential immunity.
Interesting.
But he also said he's not planning to put Trump in jail.
Okay, now that's where things get really interesting.
Yeah, how does that even work?
Right.
Guilty, but no jail time.
Well, it seems like Judge Merchant is probably going to go with what they call an unconditional discharge.
Unconditional discharge.
Yeah, it basically means no real punishment.
So like a slap on the wrist?
Pretty much. Yeah, and it's not very common in a case like this.
Especially with, the nature of the charges and everything.
Exactly.
Hold on. So he's found guilty, but he basically gets off scot-free.
Well, not so fast. The judge is still looking at some other motions from Trump's lawyers. They're trying to get the whole case dismissed completely.
Oh, so this unconditional discharge thing?
It might just be temporary, while he considers these motions.
So there's still a chance the whole thing just goes away.
It's possible. A lot depends on these motions and how the judge understands this big Supreme Court ruling about presidential immunity.
Right.
That's what Trump's team is really hanging their hats on.
They're saying it should protect him in this case.
Yeah.
And Trump's spokesman, Stephen Chung,
oh, yeah.
he did not hold back.
The
article quotes him calling this whole thing a witch hunt.
Oh, wow.
A politically motivated witch hunt and a direct violation of what the Supreme Court decided. And he made it clear that Trump is going to keep fighting this.
Oh, yeah. He's not backing down.
No way. So to really understand what's going on here, we need to back up a bit.
Okay.
The charges against Trump, initially was 34 counts of falsifying business records.
Right.
All tied to these alleged hush money payments.
Right. And this investigation has been dragging on for years now.
It started with Cyrus Vance and then Bragg took over.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
A 6-week trial for a president-elect. Can you imagine the media circus?
Oh, it was a wild ride for sure.
This whole thing has been full of drama and twists and turns.
Yeah. And remember back in July, Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, he filed this motion, arguing that some of the stuff Trump did should be protected by presidential immunity.
Because
they were official acts, you see?
Official acts.
That's the heart of this legal battle right there.
So let's just lay out the timeline for everyone.
Yeah, good idea.
The investigation started way back in 2018.
Okay.
Then fast forward to 2024, Trump wins the election.
Right.
And now we have this sentencing date right before the inauguration.
It's a mess.
A total mess.
Yeah.
And to make things even more complicated,
Oh, yeah. What now?
Bragg is actually asked to delay the whole case
Delay it? How long?
until after Trump's term is over.
You mean like put it on hold for 4 years?
Yeah.
Wow. And then on top of that, you've got the Justice Department saying a sitting president can't be indicted at the federal level.
So Bragg wants to wait. The Justice Department says it can't happen while he's president.
And Trump's team wants it thrown out entirely.
It's like a legal standoff.
It is a very complex situation.
It is. And it could have huge implications
Oh,
for
yeah.
the presidency, for the judicial system as a whole.
Definitely.
Okay, well, you've definitely got me hooked.
Good.
Let's dive deeper into this legal maze and see if we can make sense of it all.
All right, let's do it. So this whole unconditional discharge thing, it's not something you see every day.
Yeah. You said it was unusual. What does it actually mean, like legally speaking?
Basically, it means he's convicted, technically, but there's no real punishment. No conditions attached to the verdict. It's kind of like a slap on the wrist, legally speaking.
That does seem pretty lenient. I mean, considering he was found guilty on all 34 counts.
It does seem a little odd, right?
Almost like a contradiction.
But remember, the judge is still thinking about those other motions to dismiss the whole case.
Right.
So this unconditional discharge could just be temporary.
Okay.
While he considers those.
So it's like a pause button, a legal pause button.
Exactly. It all comes down to those motions and how the judge sees that Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity.
Right.
Which Trump's lawyers are really leaning on.
Okay, so let's talk more about that ruling.
Yeah.
What did it actually say?
Well, basically it said that presidents have immunity from civil lawsuits.
Yeah, okay.
For things they did while in office.
Right.
It's meant to protect them from being bogged down by lawsuits while they're trying to do their job.
But how does that apply to Trump in this case?
Right, because he wasn't president when all this stuff supposedly happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trump's team is saying that this immunity should cover things he did as president-elect, too.
Right.
Especially since the alleged crimes are connected to his campaign and winning the election.
So they're saying anything he did to win the election is covered.
Essentially.
Even if it was, not exactly ethical.
Their argument is that those actions were part of his official duties as a candidate.
Official duties.
And therefore, they're protected by presidential immunity.
That seems like a pretty broad interpretation.
It's a bold move, for sure.
It sounds like they're trying to stretch the definition of official acts to fit their narrative.
Yeah, and that's what makes this case so tricky legally.
Right.
The judge has to figure out if those actions really were official acts that deserve immunity, or if they were personal actions that aren't protected.
Okay, so can you give us some examples of what might be considered an official act versus a personal one in this context?
Sure. Let's say a candidate decides how to spend money on advertising as part of their campaign strategy. That could be seen as an official act directly related to their campaign. But if that same candidate used campaign money for personal stuff, not related to the campaign, that would probably be considered outside their official duties.
Okay, so it's a fine line.
It is, and the judge's decision could have huge implications.
Yeah.
It could set a precedent for how much legal leeway future presidents have during their campaigns and even before they take office.
It makes you think about the balance of power and accountability, doesn't it?
Absolutely. This whole situation really highlights that tension
between holding powerful people accountable
and
respecting the presidency.
Yeah, and it's made even more complicated because Trump is such a divisive figure.
It seems like everyone has a strong opinion about him one way or another.
Yeah.
His supporters think this is all political. His critics think he's finally facing the music.
It's true. And that makes it really hard to talk about the legal and ethical questions at the heart of this.
Yeah.
Because emotions are running high. It's easy to get lost in the rhetoric.
So where do we go from here?
Well, the first thing is the judge's decision on those motions.
Right.
If he throws out the case, that's pretty much it.
And if he doesn't,
then theoretically we move on to sentencing.
Even though the judge said no jail time.
Right. And of course, Trump's lawyers could appeal anything they don't like.
So this could drag on for years.
It could. Imagine running the country with this hanging over your head. It would definitely add another layer of stress to an already tough job.
Yeah. And don't forget about the political side of things.
Right.
This case is already causing a lot of division.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lightning rod for both sides.
It's a big deal. The outcome could affect people's trust in the judicial system and even the presidency. It's wild how this one case connects to so many big ideas.
Yeah.
Accountability justice, the limits of presidential power, the role of the courts. It's like a real-life civics lesson.
It really is. Makes you think about how our government actually works in practice.
So while we wait for the judge's decision on those motions, it's clear this story isn't over yet.
Oh, no, not by a long shot. It's like a political thriller.
New twists and turns every day.
Exactly. The drama continues, and we'll be here to break it all down.
I'm glad. But there's one thing that really sticks out to me.
What's that?
This whole official acts argument. It's a bit of a gray area, don't you think?
It is. It's worth taking a closer look at what Trump's lawyers are actually claiming.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's unpack it a bit more. So this official acts defense that Trump's team is using, it's pretty bold.
Yeah, it's definitely stretching the limits of how we usually think about official acts.
Especially with presidential immunity.
Right.
They're saying anything Trump did to win the election, even before he was president, should be protected.
It's like they're trying to expand the definition of official acts to include things he did during the campaign.
And even the transition period.
Exactly.
I get why they'd want to use that argument.
Yeah.
But it seems kind of dangerous.
How so?
Like, if anything a candidate does to win is suddenly an official act,
right?
What's to stop them from doing whatever they want?
That's a good point. It could lead to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Like, candidates could do things that are really harmful.
Or even illegal.
Yeah, and just say, well, I was acting as a candidate, so I'm immune.
That's scary.
It is. It's a slippery slope, and that's why this case is so important. The judge's decision on this could affect future elections.
And how candidates behave?
For sure.
Okay, so let's go back to the timeline for a second.
Okay.
Bragg wants to delay the case till after Trump's term.
Right.
But the Justice Department says a sitting president can't be indicted at all.
It's a mess, isn't it?
A total mess. It's confusing.
Yeah, it creates a very strange situation.
Right.
Bragg is basically saying, let's wait till Trump's out of office to avoid any problems. But the Justice Department is saying, you can't indict him while he's president anyway.
So both sides are saying the case can't move forward.
Right.
But for different reasons.
Exactly. It's like a legal catch-22.
Yeah. So what happens now?
Right. The case is stuck.
What if the judge doesn't dismiss it?
It could just sit there for 4 years while Trump is president.
That seems really messy.
It is. It creates a lot of uncertainty.
And distraction.
Everyone.
Imagine trying to be president with that hanging over you.
Yeah. Not to mention what it does to public perception. It's a very unusual situation.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the balance of power.
And accountability.
And what it means for the presidency these days.
This one case brings up so many big questions.
It does.
About our government, about our legal system, about holding powerful people accountable.
No matter who they are.
Exactly. It's bigger than just Trump.
You're right. It's a test for our democracy.
And the outcome will affect us all.
Definitely.
So no matter what happens with the judge's decision,
yeah,
this case has already made the political divide in our country even worse.
That's true. It seems like everything about this case just makes people dig in deeper on both sides.
Yeah. Trump supporters see it one way.
And his critics see it another way.
Exactly. And it just makes it harder to have a real conversation about the issues.
Without getting into all the political fighting.
Yeah. We need to find a way to talk to each other.
Even when we disagree.
Especially when we disagree.
Otherwise, things are just going to get worse.
Right. So we've covered a lot today, but I want to leave everyone with one last thought.
Okay, sure.
This case isn't just about Trump. It's about all of us. It's about our legal system, our democracy, our ability to hold powerful people accountable.
No matter their political party.
Right. The decisions made in this case will affect us all.
It will. It's a really important moment.
It is. So as you follow this story, I want you to think critically about what's happening.
Don't just take someone else's word for it.
Right.
Do your own research.
Talk to people you trust.
And form your own opinions.
Based on the facts. Okay, well, that's about all the time we have for today.
Wow, that went fast.
It did. We covered a lot of ground.
A lot of ground.
But this is a conversation that needs to continue.
Absolutely.
So keep thinking, keep talking, and keep learning.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Thanks for listening.